This is the Capitol Rundown.
We all want safe communities and a chance to be rewarded for our hard work.
I'm going to resist efforts to that will achieve savings by hurting people.
Your laughter and ideas harmonized with the echoes of the past.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Siobhan Klepfer. From Lansing to Washington, D.C., there's a lot happening in Michigan politics, so let's get started. And we start this morning with the future of electric vehicles in the industry and how decisions made by automakers and politicians are being felt here in Michigan. GM was one of the companies involved in building an EV battery plant in Lansing, but on Monday, the company announced it was selling its stake to South Korea's LG Energy Solutions. It was expected to open in 2024, but the year is almost done, and that's still a big unknown. If or when it opens, it's expected to provide about 1,700 jobs in mid-Michigan. Republican State Representative Matt Hall, who will be the new House Speaker when his party takes control in January, says GM is misusing the more than $660 million in Michigan tax incentives it was given to develop the plant, and that CEO Mary Barra has obligations here.
It's just the arrogance of GM to do that. We should try to get the money back. I think GM should return the money. I would tell her that, her only obligation is not to her shareholders. And I'm disappointed. And I would ask her, step up and show the people of Michigan you're committed to our state and you're committed to Detroit.
But the future of the EV market under a Donald Trump presidency is cloudy. The Biden administration promoted EVs and provided subsidies to grow the market, but the president-elect has promised to cancel them. Plus, nearly all automakers in the U.S. have had to slow plans to build electric vehicle and battery factories after EV sales growth eased from a huge growth in 2023. Up next, Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow gave her farewell speech to the U.S. Senate. We'll tell you what she had to say when the Capitol Rundown returns. Welcome back. Republican State Representative Josh Shriver of Oxford made a post on social media calling for an end to same-sex marriage. On Monday, Representative Shriver posted on social media, quote, "Make gay marriage illegal again. This is not remotely controversial nor extreme," end quote. The Republican also said in his post that the U.S. Supreme Court was perverted for the landmark 2015 ruling that legalized same-sex marriage across the country and that America is dysfunctional. Now, the comments were strongly condemned by several Michigan politicians and others. State Attorney General Dana Nessel, Michigan's first openly gay statewide office holder who is married to another woman, said Representative Shriver just wants to hurt people he hates. Democratic State Representative Jason Morgan said he grew up believing he'd never be able to get married, and the Republicans' comments are anti-family. Now, this comes after Representative Shriver was already stripped of his staff and committee assignments for promoting the racist Great Replacement theory. That was in February of this year. Congress is back in Washington, and lawmakers have a long to-do list before they adjourn for the year. That includes avoiding a government shutdown. Washington correspondent Trevor Shirley is in D.C. with more.
We're at the beginning of what will be a very busy December.
From keeping the government open to funding the military and passing a major agricultural farm bill, Congress has a lot to do and less than 3 weeks to get it all done.
Let's be absolutely clear. December drama is not the way to demonstrate we're serious about our most basic governing responsibilities.
Priority one remains funding the government to avoid a shutdown set to happen December 20th.
Both sides are making progress negotiating on a bill that can pass the House and Senate with bipartisan support.
In all likelihood, Congress will pass a short-term continuing resolution, punting a long-term fix to the next Congress in January.
At this late hour, we'll have to act on legislation that comes to us over from the House.
Congress also has to pass the annual National Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, to fund the military.
The NDAA has been passed without fail for decades with the cooperation from both sides, and I hope this year is no exception.
And on top of all that, more emergency relief money is still needed for parts of the country hit hard by natural disasters like hurricanes.
We should come together again at the end of the year to get disaster aid done, or we may not be ready to respond the next time Mother Nature wreaks havoc in our communities.
Well, moving on, retiring U.S. Senator Debbie Stabenow is wrapping up 24 years representing Michigan on Capitol Hill. On Wednesday, she gave her farewell speech to the Senate floor. The Democrat was born in Gladwin and grew up in Clare, and she thanked both her staff in D.C. and here in Michigan. She also talked about family, who she called the unsung heroes of every story. And she also thanked the people of Michigan. Closing out her speech, Senator Stabenow talked about this moment in time in America.
We all know there's great division, promoted by so many who want to gain their own power at America's expense. Yet we have so much in common. We all love our children and want the same things for them to be successful. We all want safe communities and a chance to be rewarded for our hard work. We can heal the divide and work together if we just look for that one thing that we can agree on to make our lives better and get it done. And then we can look again for that one thing. If we don't let the haters divide us, we can rebuild trust with one another and be the America we want to be. This is my hope and my prayer for all of us.
Last month, Democratic Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin defeated Republican Mike Rogers for the seat left behind by Senator Stabenow. It was one of the few Democratic victories in a Senate that will be under Republican control in January. Well, this past week, President Joe Biden pardoned his son Hunter, and there could be more pardons coming. That and much more next. Welcome back. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer cannot run again because of term limits, and now someone's talking about replacing her. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan announced on Wednesday he plans to run for governor, but he will be running as an independent rather than a Democrat. And this has raised concerns among Democratic strategists that he could split the vote, paving the way for a Republican governor in 2026. One consultant says Mayor Duggan could grab the same votes he did when running for that office as a write-in candidate in Detroit.
Certainly going to have more money than anyone else. He currently dominates the state's largest media market. About 50% of Michigan's population lives in that media market.
There's not much better of a political mastermind for getting things done than Mike Duggan. He's not only the candidate, he's the campaign manager, he's the general consultant, he's all those things.
Mayor Duggan must collect between 12,000 and 60,000 signatures from registered Michigan voters. At least 100 signatures must be from registered voters in at least 7 of the state's 13 congressional districts. Political watchers say potential Democratic candidates include Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, Genesee County Sheriff Chris Swanson, Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, and U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. For the Republicans, State Senator Eric Nesbitt, former Michigan Attorney General Mike Cox, Congressman John James, and even Tudor Dixon, who lost to Governor Whitmer in 2022. Well, efforts to dismantle federal programs and fire workers are underway in Washington. Billionaires Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy met with lawmakers Thursday as they prepare to head up the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. Washington correspondent Maddie Beertemple reports on their plans.
Musk and Ramaswamy say they want to cut $2 trillion of government spending, but it's unclear what exactly is on the chopping block. Heads of the new Department of Government Efficiency were welcomed by Republicans who say government has gotten too big.
This is a new day in Washington and a new day in America.
House Speaker Mike Johnson says Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy's visit to Capitol Hill was the first of many meetings aimed at making government more efficient.
There won't be a lot of detail for the press today, and that's by design because this is a brainstorming session.
While there weren't specific cuts laid out Thursday,
they're going to put everything on the table.
The DOJ duo has said they plan to fire federal workers, slash regulations, and cut programs. Virginia Senator Tim Kaine says he's open to ideas, but doesn't want to see cuts to things like Medicare and Medicaid.
I'm going to resist efforts to that will achieve savings by hurting people.
There could be other challenges, too, according to South Carolina Congressman Ralph Norman.
This is where the problem comes. Everybody's pet project they want to keep.
And Texas Congressman Greg Casar says overall he's skeptical of Musk.
I don't have high hopes for him having anything other than pretty awful ideas.
Now, this new department itself doesn't have the authority to directly cut spending, but they'll make recommendations for lawmakers to consider. In Washington, I'm Maddie Biertemple.
Turning now to the White House, the president's pardon of his son is continuing to draw scrutiny from both sides of the aisle. Our Washington correspondent Hannah Brandt is in D.C. with more on the reaction from Capitol Hill.
President Biden's pardon of his son Hunter sent out shockwaves across the country because he had repeatedly promised not to do it, like at this press conference in June.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
The pardon grants Hunter clemency for his conviction on felony gun charges and for his guilty plea on tax charges. He was set to be sentenced in both cases later this month. But White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says President Biden decided this weekend that he would issue the pardon.
He wrestled with it. He thought about it.
In his statement, President Biden says he made the decision because he believes Hunter was treated unfairly for political reasons.
They targeted him because his last name was Biden.
Republicans immediately slammed the pardon.
This is blatant corruption and an abuse of the office.
If it was my son, I'd pardon him too. But here's what I didn't like. Don't lie to us.
And Democrats are criticizing the decision too. Senator Michael Bennet wrote on X, President Biden's decision put personal interest ahead of duty and further erodes Americans' faith that the justice system is fair and equal for all.
He believes in the justice system, but he also believes that the war politics infected the process and led to a miscarriage of justice.
Well, since then, we have learned the president is considering issuing preemptive pardons for some of Mr. Trump's biggest critics. They include Dr. Anthony Fauci, California Democratic Senator-elect Adam Schiff, who led the first impeachment efforts against Mr. Trump, and former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who campaigned against the president-elect. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We told you earlier about Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan announcing his intention to become Michigan's next governor as an independent. Our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic has the inside info on that, and the Rundown's Joe Moran talked to him about that and who else is considering a run.
It's time to get updated politically here in the state of Michigan, and nobody better than this guy right here, Tim Skubic, to help us out. Tim, as we just saw earlier, Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan is now running for governor, but not as a Democrat. What's his strategy here, and how is that going to affect other candidates getting in the race?
Wow. As they say, this changes everything. Our pollster Bernie Porn said this is a game changer, and it clearly is. There's no question about it. Look, at everybody in our town knew that Mr. Duggan was plotting to run for governor, but nobody knew he would pull the trigger and say, you know what, I'm done with the Democratic Party. I'm going to run as an independent. Unprecedented. He will have access to big money already. William Clay Ford has endorsed him. So we have a couple of big money banks down in Detroit said, you're our guy. So he starts out with getting everybody's attention. Now, will this scare other candidates from running? Absolutely not. And as we've reported exclusively this week, we've got another name now that has surfaced. That name is Mark Hackel, who's the Macomb County executive. And it actually was Mr. Hackel's original idea to run as an independent for governor many years ago, but he just never pulled the trigger. So now Mike Duggan has beat him to the punch. And our sources are telling us that now Mr. Hackel is looking at and has not ruled out running as an independent himself. So the whole governor's race is up in arms. The list is longer than your arm on who's running and not, but Duggan is he's really shaking up our town with this decision to run as an I and not a D.
Is it because maybe he doesn't want to have anything to do with the Democrat Party, or is he trying to tell voters, I'm not so liberal, I also have some moderate or maybe even conservative values? What's the thinking here?
Yeah, excellent question. If you listen to his 4-minute video where he's sitting on a couch in his living room talking to the people, what he's basically saying is that our politics today is so wrought with bickering going on that this is the opportunity for a candidate, me, to run it not as an R and a D and get away from the bickering. That way I can work with both sides and get out of this mess that we're in. And he points to this last election was certainly was ugly, and a lot of people were upset. A lot of Ds didn't like what was happening in their party. A lot of Rs who don't like Donald Trump don't like what's happening in their party. And he's saying, hey, folks, here I am. I'm not connected to either one. So the strategy is to find that middle lane and run as an independent so that you don't have all the baggage that comes with either party. We'll see if it works.
We will see if it works. Tim, always great to hear and see from you. We appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Catch you later.
Well, coming up, we will take you inside the White House for the holidays. Stay tuned. Christmas is just a little more than 2 weeks away now, and other holidays are starting to pop up on the calendar. So the White House has decked its halls with boughs of holly and more. Take a look. First Lady Jill Biden unveiled the decorations Monday morning. This year's theme is a season of peace and light and features 83 Christmas trees, 28,000 ornaments, and 165,000 holiday lights. Several rooms have special themes, including the China Room, which contains artisanal breads, and the state dining room's tree features ornaments made by children from across the country. The official White House menorah is also on display, along with a miniature gingerbread White House. The First Lady says she treasures opening her home to the public during the holiday season.
For Joe and for me, these are the final holidays at the White House. During the 4 years, your laughter and ideas harmonized with the echoes of the past. And in those moments, this became more than a historic house. You made it a home, alive with purpose and possibility.
The White House expects more than 100,000 visitors this holiday season and is also offering an interactive online viewing experience. The First Lady says a team of more than 300 volunteers absolutely transformed the first residence for the holiday season. And that's our show for this week. Thank you so much for watching the Capitol Rundown. We will see you all again right here next week.